Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first F1 Doctors interview season Q&A. We are going to talk about, for a lot of you guys, I see on the Google form, a lot of you guys are currently on the interview trail, and a bunch of you guys are I guess, applying in the future cycles. So I think this is a great chance for everyone to get to know about the interview process. What is it like to interview as international student, and also just be a great place to ask any questions that you have about interviews. And all of these wonderful, amazing panelists on the panel today are current M1s or D1s who have just gone through the interview process last year, which is quite different. We unfortunately we did get to travel, but a little bit. Also, we haven't done any Zoom interviews or just virtual in general. So a lot of the questions we are going to probably also like hypothesize a little bit and just giving you what our best guesses are. So kind of take it with a grain of salt, but also one thing we want you to know is we're always here for you. So if you have any questions during the entire Q&A session, if you have any questions, you can type in the chat, but also feel free to save it until the end. We have about like probably 20 minutes, like 20 minutes, depends on how long the previous, like in the beginning it goes. We'll probably have 20 to 30 minutes to answer any questions. So if you want to save it until the end, that'll be great as well. We just want to remind everyone to keep yourself muted at least. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat and we'll answer it during the live session. So we're going to, first of all, let the panelists introduce themselves. And then we're going to move on to all the pre-submitted questions that you guys had on the Google Doc. And then we're going to move on to the live Q&A. So feel free to unmute, turn the video, and ask a question to any of our panelists. So we can do a lightning round of introduction. So we have a bunch of amazing panelists from different medical schools, dental schools around the country. They are all, they also went through the interview process last year. So they should have pretty great understanding of what it's like to go through the process. So we can start with Cyrus. Just talk about who you are, where you're from, where you are in medical school, and then probably for a question, maybe what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, that sounds like a good plan. Hello, everyone. My name is Cyrus Bachman, and I'm originally from Ghana in West Africa. I'm currently a first-year medical student at Stanford School of Medicine. And my favorite ice cream flavor, I'll go with cookie dough ice cream. My roommates introduced me to it, and I loved it. So I'll go with cookie dough.
Sounds great. All right, next we can move to Nav.
Hi everyone, my name is Nav Diol. I'm a current D1 at Harvard Dental School. I'm originally from Canada. I was born in Mississauga. And I guess my favorite ice cream flavor would probably be mint chip.
All right, next one would be Sal.
Hello everybody, I'm Salvatore. You can call me Sal. I'm originally from Italy, a town between Rome and Naples on the coast. Really nice, you can Google it. I'm studying at Renaissance School of Medicine at Stony Brook University. I love soccer. I played with the Academy of Naples, and I still try to play every once in a while. So I love soccer, and the ice cream flavor that I like the most, honestly, I like all of them. If there is one, maybe the Nutella flavor, I'm proud of Nutella, but yeah.
Great. Next one will be Alexandra.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Alessandra Forlano. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela, but part of my family is originally from Italy too.
Great.
I'm a current D2 student at Nova Southeastern University. Well, my favorite ice cream flavor would be Nutella and stracciatella. That's a very good one too. And feel free, I hope you enjoy this Q&A.
All right, next one is Vicky.
Hey guys, my name is Vicky. I'm a current first year student at Vanderbilt. I was born in Taiwan, but I grew up mostly in Vancouver in Canada. My favorite ice cream flavor is also either cookies and cream or stracciatella.
All right, last but not least, Wendy.
Hi everyone, my name's Wendy. I am originally from like southwest part of China. I'm also at Vanderbilt, so Vicky and I were classmates. And my favorite ice cream flavor, I'll say chocolate, but after that is pistachio.
All right. So I'm also going to introduce myself. My name is Zach. I'm also from China. Currently, I'm a first year medical student at Harvard Medical School. And my favorite ice cream flavor, it will be, well, it recently changed because I discovered that there is a flavor that combines two of my favorite flavors, which is it's coffee, cookies, and cream. So it combines both cookies and cream and also coffee. So that's amazing. So let's get it started. So the first segment will be all these pre-submitted questions from all the Google form responses. So let's go to the very first one. So how different would it be to have virtual interviews than in-person interviews? Anyone want to kind of take a dab at hypothesizing what it's going to be like?
I can start. So I obviously didn't have any virtual interviews, but the reason I say this is because my boyfriend had a virtual interview this year, so I kind of like saw that. Well, I wasn't there, but like I heard about it. So I don't think it's actually that different, at least the interview portion. So in terms of scheduling, like it might be more narrow because they might expect you to be like just in general more available. So you might have like fewer dates to choose from. Also, I'm thinking of this like because we interviewed at the same school where I went in person, he went virtual, so I can like tell what's different. So that was one difference. Another thing is you might not get a lot of the like tours and like more of the fun non-interview things that usually happen on interview day. I think a lot of those like talks about the curriculum and information sessions like obviously are virtual, and it's kind of just like a person talking at you. The social hour that some schools might have could still happen, and obviously it's just like virtual either the day before or maybe before your interview or after. The actual interview content from like when we spoke didn't seem to be too different. Like for example, the school that we both interviewed at had like a faculty and a student one, and that's exactly like what my boyfriend also experienced. So yeah, I don't think the questions are really different either. I don't think he got any like COVID specific questions either. So obviously like he should still dress up. Like he was like against the white wall, like dress up as if you're for the interview, just because it makes you look better, you feel more prepared. But otherwise, like I feel like it's just like normal talking. I don't think it's too different.
Yeah, I mean, if I of course I didn't have experience with the virtual interviews because I interviewed last year, and Vicky has a way more experience than me since her boyfriend had a virtual interview. But I mean, I think you know, one of the easiest things to fix for virtual interview is just making sure you have a nice background, that you don't have distraction behind you, look professional. You know, even though if it's a virtual interview, you know, interviewers are able to see what you're doing and your gesture and communication. So just try to look professional. Don't try to click around. You know, if you know, don't try to. If you have an MMI virtually, don't just Google it because they will see it. So just be professional. Be prepared as if it was if it were an in-person interview. Wear all your suit, you know, don't wear pajamas for your pants. So, and I guess those things are really important, that if you missteps, those things are, they may look not so good. So those are easy things. And check your connection first. So make sure you have a good connection, make sure your computer is working correctly. So those are the kind of easy things to fix, but that they can give you like a good experience for the virtual interview.
All right, thank you, Sel and Alexander. Sorry, Vicky. I guess that kind of ties into the second question, is how to deal with MMI. I think we might be experiencing a little bit of a difference in in-person MMI and also virtual MMI. So I guess, Cyrus, do you want to take a dab at the MMI question?
Yeah, I'm happy to chip in on that. So here at Stanford, we use the MMI format for our interviews. So the MMI simply stands for multiple mini interviews. And so usually what that consists of is you walk into different stations. And this was last year when we did the physical in-person interviews. There were, I think, about 7 stations, and each of them had a prompt that you'd read, and then you walk in there, and there's an interviewer there who would listen to your response to the prompt and then ask you follow-up questions based on the information that you're providing. And so just a few tips about how to approach the MMI. You want to go in with a general framework in mind for how you want to be answering the questions. So thinking about themes like you want to make sure that you're being respectful of the patient and the views that they're expressing. You also want to make sure that you're emphasizing their autonomy and allowing them to make the choices that they know to be best for their health, and you as a physician being there to support and guide them through the process. Those are just some examples. A key thing to keep in mind is that you want to show that you can think about issues critically and carefully, and you can distill between complex viewpoints. So when you have a prompt, that I know this would probably be maybe one end of an extreme topic, but if they ask you, what do you think about euthanasia, for instance, and you are trying to come up with a response to it, you want to think about why some people would advocate for euthanasia, and then also think about why people would advocate against euthanasia. And then you decide which one you are aligning more with, and then provide your explanations for that. And make sure that you're communicating that you recognize these factors to be maybe more impactful than the reasons why people would choose the other viewpoint. So think of it more of an argumentative essay where you come up with different viewpoints and then you make a choice and decide why you're aligning with that viewpoint versus another. And other things to consider is that every station is evaluated independently of each other. And so if one station, you go in there, you give your response and you find yourself fumbling or you don't think you did too well, forget about it. Don't stress yourself going into the next one, because everyone is looking at you as a new candidate and they're not concerned about what you did in the previous station. So have a fresh perspective before going into each new one. And something else that we did last year, and I don't know how it would be replicated in an online setting, but there was one station where you're paired with another applicant, and then you're given instructions about a task that you had to complete. In some cases, you're given Lego blocks and you're asked to build something out of it, or you're given a set of strings and you're asked to tie it in a certain way. So one applicant reads the instructions and the other person completes the activity. With that, my advice would be make sure that you're being thoughtful and that you're demonstrating kindness to the person that you're working with, so that you're not coming off as harsh or you're demeaning the work that they're doing. If you're the one giving the instructions and they don't seem to get it, be kind, be empathetic. The same way, if you're on the other end and you're following the instructions and they're not very clear, you ask questions to your partner and then make sure that you're clarifying what the next step should be. Those are a few thoughts that come to mind. As we go into the live Q&A, if there are more specific questions that come up, I'll be happy to talk about them.
Oh, wow, I just want to say that Cyrus did a really great job of covering everything. And I wanted to re-emphasize how if you feel like you didn't do really well in one section, it's not a big deal. MMI, you have multiple sections, so don't stress over one. Just some personal things, because in my experience, Canadian schools had a lot of emphasis on MMI. You will deal with interviewers who will ask you follow-up questions for some prompts, and others will want you to just go along and just keep talking, or they'll give you follow-up questions to answer. Another big thing is the best way I personally found to prepare and deal with MMI is just working with other people, doing a lot of practice questions with others, like through Zoom or maybe Discord. Just find a group, get a list of prompts and just answer them and judge each other's answers and critique them, because it's just practice is key for MMI, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think I really agree with both Nav and Cyrus. Went through one last year. I'm not sure how this is going to be converted to online format, but I think definitely practice is key as compared to traditional interviews. So we'll address more specific questions about MMI later in the live Q&A session as well. So next, let's move on to the third question. So what kind of questions would they ask you about the pandemic? For example, your personal experiences, thought on this situation, etc.
I can maybe answer that. I remember a friend of mine is applying this year, and I think many of the schools included a secondary for you to talk about like anything related to the COVID-19. So she talked about basically she's like working in the research lab, and her mom was like her mom is a nurse who's working the front line of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I only see like if you actually write about it, it's probably going to come up in the interview. But other than that, I don't think they're going to ask you specific questions about the pandemic, unless it's like, for example, like some other worries I've heard about the pandemic is that a lot of the courses we're taking right now are converted to like pass-fail. I don't think it's going to be a concern, because like every single school knows that this is the situation that's going on and we can't really get letter grades. So I don't think you need to worry about that. I guess when you have like very specific like personal difficulties associated with the pandemic, it's a good opportunity to bring it up and address that in the interview. But I don't feel they're gonna ask specific about the pandemic unless you talked about it in the secondaries.
I have something to add too. Can I? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe I don't think they're gonna ask specific questions about the pandemic, but what I noticed during, especially during the MMI questions, is that they measure your ability to solve problems and how to manage certain situations. Like, how would you come up with a solution over this situation? I remember one of the questions that I had was like, imagine I was a mother, I had a kid, and I had my patient sitting in the dental chair, and I had to go home because no one else could pick up my daughter, my supposed daughter, my imaginary daughter in my house. So maybe they could apply questions related to COVID-19 to measure how are you able to solve problems, how are you able to manage certain situations that are not daily things, like how specifically because during COVID-19 we noticed how many people have to look for solutions. We are having now classes through Zoom and everything, things that we were not used to do. So that's another one way I could imagine that they could ask something related to COVID-19.
Yeah, if I can add just a quick thing. I remember one of my MMI, there was kind of a ethical dilemma about, we have a big population that denies vaccines, they don't trust in science. So I can see something about, they may ask about how would you deal with a person that doesn't believe in COVID, or he or she believes that is a hoax. So I think this is maybe something that may come up for an ethical dilemma. And I think in that case, it's important that you don't give like crazy answer, like start yelling and stuff like that. But it's important just to keep moderation and keep in mind that as a physician, we and you will be also a teacher. So your job will be to educate people and understand the science and the reality behind disease and pathologies. So just don't be crazy, don't be extreme, but be moderate.
Zach, you're muted.
Sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry that my computer kind of freaked out. So the next question, so if anyone can talk about what was the most difficult interview questions you have gotten during the interview process, that would be great.
I can start. So I guess I wouldn't say it's the most difficult, but it was very detailed. So I did research in my senior year, and there was a specific project that I was part of. And like this interviewer asked very like specifically about what I did exactly in this project. And like my part, like a part of my job is to like kind of take data out of a database and do data analysis on that. And he further asked me which database that I used, and I answered that question. But I thought that was a very, very specific question. And I think I just read through like the entire paper right before my interview, and also like kind of reviewed everything because it has been like almost like 2 years since I did the research. So if I didn't review the paper myself, I probably wouldn't be able to answer that question. So I would say that sometimes if you did research on something, you really have to know what you did exactly. And it could happen like very long time ago. Like for example, your freshman year, you did join a lab and did a very minor work, and somehow your name got onto a publication, then you're supposed to be able to talk about it. So like it just know your research basically. So I would say that's like a very not difficult, but like very specific question that I wasn't really expecting.
So I think also follow up on that, you kind of touch base on the fifth question is, any technical questions regarding to your research experience. I guess you talked about that, but also would you mind touch base on like how long should you keep your answer to be?
I usually keep my answer pretty short. Like depends on what they ask. Like if they are giving me a very general like question, like tell me about your research, I probably would be like kind of talk about like what was the research on and what I did, and also like what was like the end result, like did I get a publication, like something like that. So it's usually pretty brief, unless they will usually ask like follow-up questions on specific things they want to know. I don't think it's very necessary to go like into the super detailed like mechanism of, because I did cancer research and I can talk about like cancer like mechanism for days, but I don't think they really want that answer. And also like they're probably doing some like different specialty. Like my interview was like a pediatrician, so I don't think they really care about like the mechanism of like breast cancer. But I think just like enough to make sense, like kind of like you're explaining this to like a lay person. But if they're interested, they will ask you follow-up questions. Like I did ophthalmology research in my gap year, that was like during my interviews. And there was an interviewer who's an ophthalmologist, and he knows like everything about my research. So he asked a very specific question about like which gene I was researching on and what method I used, what kind of like transgenic mouse I was using. Like, yeah, it's super specific. I guess it really depends on like who you interview with. So I guess like kind of know who your interviewer is ahead of time and see what their specialty is in. it's helpful. So
and then kind of circle back to the previous question. Is there anyone else who had a very like difficult or out of the field interview question that you want to share? If not, we can go to the next question. Okay. Go ahead.
I remember one that it wasn't related to my academics, but mostly it was related to my personal circumstances at the moment. Since I moved to the United States like just 4 years ago, by the time I had my interview, it was just 2.5 years ago when I had my interview season. And I remember, since I moved to Florida, my top school that I wanted to get in was Nova Southeastern University. But I remember since I am an international student, that people recommended me to apply to many schools to have my options open, because as an international student, you never know. And I remember I went all the way north, even though I didn't want it to live in a cold weather. And they asked me like, why would you like to move again to the north if you already have your family and you already moved to Florida? Why would you like to move again? And obviously, inside, I didn't want to move again. But in front of an interviewer, you cannot tell that to the person who is interviewing you, because you want to get in, you want that spot in any school. And I remember I answered something about getting out of my comfort zone. You get experiences you never know. So what, like I explained to them like how I like it getting out of my comfort zone, moving to another country, that I was open to get to another state, because United States was not only Florida for me. So it was something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you so much. So next question, what are some of the questions I should ask to get to know about the school in the end of the interview?
I can take that. So I guess I would say it's really helpful to talk to the current students, because it's like a way to get a feeling of like how the schools are actually are. The other thing is, one thing I kind of regret not doing was like asking exactly how their curriculum are, because I feel like I was so focused on like trying to get into the school that I wasn't even thinking about like what happens after I actually got into a few and how do I decide. And like I feel like after I got into a few, I was deciding between schools, and it was like until that time I was like, I don't really know what they're offering. So I guess at least like write down some like contact information from each school. And I usually do like when they're doing like the curriculum presentation, I usually write down like what's pretty special about the school on a piece of paper, so I can keep track of like what they have, which is very different from other schools. And also I would say that ask them about like one question, because I am like doing the pre-interview social thing for Vanderbilt. One question I usually got, which I think is a good one, is ask the students about what surprised you about the school, because I guess people have different expectations going in, and some expectation doesn't really match with the reality, and that's always like a good one.
Something I would also ask is about how is the environment between classmates. I think that's one of the most important things also to consider, because going through dental school, and I know for sure med school too, it's a very hard process, and you need friends, you need people who are going by this who are going through the same process as you are, and who are able to understand what you're going through and that can support you, because one day you're gonna be supporting someone who's next to you, but the following day you'll need the support from that person. So it's very important to know how is an environment that is not competitive, that because at the end you're all gonna graduate as dentists, or you're all gonna graduate as doctors. So it is very important to have someone by your side to be there every time you need it.
Thank you so much. Those are great answers. I feel like definitely doing the interview process, I know it can be very nerve-wracking. So you definitely feel like I just want to get in a school. So then it's really hard to really focus on, I guess, the interview process, how much information you can get out of it. One thing I would recommend is just kind of a minor mentality shift. I know it's really hard to do, but if you are invited to interview, if you are on campus that day, they want you as much as they like you want them. So I think kind of do that, like repeat that to your brain a few times, then you will be able to kind of really focus on, I really want to get to know the school. And then a lot of times the questions will come up pretty naturally. So next question is, should you talk about being an international student at your interview?
I can take that. So generally, I think no, unless they ask you about it. Like they know you're international, they can see from your application, and I feel like saying it doesn't really add much unless you have like, you know, an interest. Like if you have a life experience from like where you grew up that contributed to something you want to talk about, then yes. But otherwise, like I don't think you should bring up that you're international, like kind of just because. I know like I didn't really, and like most schools didn't really ask, except one thing they would ask is like kind of why did you decide to come to the US? Like make sure you have a good answer for that, because you know if you don't, then I think they will find it very odd that you want to study here. And I think one school also asked me about like the different healthcare systems between like the US and Canada, because that's like where I'm from. So make sure you're also prepared to talk about that. But otherwise, like I wouldn't bring it up unless either you have a significant experience or you have a compelling reason why you wanted to come to the States, or they ask you about healthcare, or if there's like an issue in healthcare that you're passionate to talk about. But make sure you're prepared for the healthcare aspect, because like I did get asked that without me bringing it up.
Yeah. Alessandra, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I wanted to say that um, as Vicky mentioned, like it is important to uh, know about the healthcare of your country, because they're for sure gonna ask you about a comparison. And I know Canada is a like very well good country, but in my case, Venezuela is a third world country, and the healthcare system there is still terrible. And I would say like during the interview, the most important thing is to be different and be yourself. And we have different cultures, and that is what makes us different. And you need to let the interviewer know why you're different, and that way that person is going to remember you too. And for example, in the circumstances of my country, like I know for sure every interviewee that I have had, they still remember all my stories about Venezuela and the healthcare system there, because I was also, yeah, I don't know if someone else here had that experience, but I started dentistry in Venezuela, but I couldn't finish because of the political situation. And I know for sure that's a plus on me that made me different in my interview process.
Yeah, I want to add something. Totally agree with Alessandra, and I agree in part with Vicky. I think, yes, I agree with Vicky saying that you need to have a story why you want to study in the US. That's important. But I think that being international that's what we are. That's our strength. We can bring so much. Our stories, we are not the classical medical school applicant. We bring diversity, we bring different perspectives, we bring life stories that other Americans cannot bring to the table. So I think if you have a compelling story, your sense of adaptation coming from another country to the US, coming from Italy, coming from Brazil, coming from Canada, coming for any part of the world, transitioning to another culture, learning a new language, those are special things that I think the interviewers want to see. And I'm Italian. I'm proud to be Italian, and I say that to my interview. And I think they appreciate the fact that I say that I can understand the difficulties that patients that are Hispanic patients or other patients that are not directly from the US may have in approaching the US healthcare system. So I think that if you have a compelling story, and I don't think you should hide the fact that you are international, because as I said, we bring diversity. The US is a wonderful country because it's diverse, because there are multiple cultures, and we understand that. We understand the struggles of immigrants. We understand the struggles of navigating the US healthcare system. We understand the struggle of being scared probably to pay, to understand that healthcare is not free it's not free. So this is something that I think the interviewer will appreciate, and something that should not be hidden.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think if it's something that you are super passionate about, I'm sure without really kind of purposely drive the conversation there, it will come up. And I think the more I think you feel passionate about who you are as part of your identity, the easier it will come up. And I'm sure you will come across as very genuine, unique. And I think that is actually one of our strengths that a lot of domestic students wouldn't have. So I think it's really, I don't think there's a black and white answer saying like, oh, like don't talk about it at all, or talk about it, like make sure they know you're international. I think it's very situational. It's very contextual based on your interview as well. So next question, how do you, so I think we'll like to, for this question, kind of want to clarify, like it says how to prepare for case presentation and bench test. So I think I don't think that's something that we really, I don't know, it really applies to medical school interview, at least. I've never really gone through those. So I don't know if, yeah.
Yeah, that's for the International Dental Graduate Program. Uh, the case presentation, I'm not very sure how is it, but I know for sure the bench test, you have to prepare a tooth. Like if you are doing a crown preparation and a tooth, and they're gonna evaluate it like every millimeter, and that's so. In order to get into that program, you need the case presentation, the boards, and also the bench test and the interview. I don't have a specific information about the case presentation part, but I can look for it and send it to email to whoever and everyone who had the same question.
Yeah, sounds great. We will kind of put together, so all these videos will be recorded, and also if you want to reach out to any of us later, we'll have all the contact information available. We'll post this. We'll follow up with everyone through email. So next question is, after submitting my application, when do I expect to hear back regarding interviews?
I can take that one.
Oh.
I think it really depends. I think I can only share my timeline. So I think I've seen like after submitting my secondaries, regarding hearing back from interviews is usually between like 6 weeks to 8 weeks, but it can go much further than that. I think my latest, so I submitted my all my secondaries before August, and my secondaries were completed by August 8th, and most of my interviews happened between October and like end of November. But there's one that happened right before Christmas, and most of my interview invitation happened like 1 month before that, before all my interviews. That's pretty much my timeline. But I would say that this year looks a little bit different from what I've heard. The time window between when you get your interview invitation and your actual interview is really short. So you can actually get like an invitation like a week before your actual interview. So just keep that in mind. This year looks different.
I can add something to that question too. For the, if you live, I know for dental that if you live close by the school that you are very interested in going, I really recommend like having close contact with the people from admissions from that school, especially if you live close to there. I remember for NSU, the same day I took my DAT, I drove all my way to the university with my DAT scores, telling them this is my DAT scores. Is this good? Do you want me to take it again? And being in close contact with them. And like the same afternoon, they gave me the interview, but they already knew who I was. Like I was the most um, intense person that they could ever know.
Yeah, I agree. So my timeline was like pretty similar to Wendy's. I would say like yeah, like I also finished around like early mid-August, and then or sorry, no, I think yeah, around maybe like end of July, early August. And then I heard from like I had most of my invites like August to October, and then all my interviews were finished like before Christmas. And then in terms of the actual decision, it really varies by school. Like I think some schools like tell you the week of, but then like most of my schools got back to me in like March. So it really varies. So yeah, can go from like December to March. And I think if you're applying to state schools, like some of them tell you even earlier. But a lot of them are also like non-rolling, so I wouldn't like stress too much about that, because there's really nothing you can do after your interview before they make the decision. Like you already gave it your all, so just try to like stay sane while you wait.
Yeah. All right. Next question is what to expect during interview. Is it one-on-one or group interview?
I think a really great resource is SDN, where you can check like previous year threads and see what kind of interview you're gonna like be having and like what types of questions you might get.
And also for the dental point of view, it also depends on the school. I would also recommend looking at it at SDN. And there will be schools that you have more than one interviewer. There will be others that it's only 1-to-1, and there are others that have MMI system. But in my personal opinion, the ones that I find that I like the most were the ones that were either one-on-one, or the one that were more than one interviewer, because that I prefer those those kind of interview rather than MMI, because I feel that in the other way I could express more myself. I could express my interest more than just answering an ethical question. But I really recommend that you prepare for like every school you apply, look at SDN if you are willing and interested in which methodology of interview you feel more strong doing, or and anything.
I guess I have just one last bit. Some schools do like this fish tank thing. So they are just observing you from like the very moment you walk in and until like the very moment you walk out. So it's a little bit stressful that way, but they usually would tell you like they are observing you the whole time. So you are being evaluated, AKA Hopkins.
Yeah.
Also, something I would also like to add is that when the students are giving you the tour and everything, like they are also watching you. Like some of the students will tell you, oh, don't worry, tell us anything, we're not going to tell anything to the dean. But believe me, like everyone is watching you from the beginning until you leave that from that door.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think with that said, I think the biggest thing is just don't be ridiculous. Like don't do anything that's very irrespectful, like especially when you're talking to the admission office people, like even though they're not part of your interview process. But just be a nice person, treat everyone with respect, and behave like you would to everyone. Like behave towards everyone just as you are going to behave towards the interviewers, and that will make sure you're safe. So one of the last question will be, what question should I ask the interviewer during the interviews?
I can answer that one. This is my favorite question. I always tell people to ask the interviewer, like if you genuinely have questions about the school, ask them first. But if you really don't have any and your interview asks you this question, like do you have anything more you want to ask about, I always ask them what advice they have for me as a person who's going into medicine right now, because they are like in medicine for like years and they probably have much more experience than I do. First of all, people love give advice, so they're just gonna have a better impression about you in general. Secondly, some of the advice they gave you are actually going to be pretty helpful in medical school. So I always ask that question.
Yeah, so I also like I would ask that question sometimes, but I know ones I would always ask is like what you like most about the school, and like what do you think like the student culture is like. Maybe just ask them like what they like about the city. Like you'll realize a lot of the times the interviewers that you click most well with are the ones that you can talk, like you can chat with the most, I would say. Like I think the more you can just like kind of be close to them, the better. Obviously don't be like silly and like not formal, but definitely try to connect with them more. And it doesn't have to be about the school. Like I said, like I feel like a lot of my interviewers like when I ask them about like why they like the city, and like sometimes I will even ask them like what they think they can improve on, like if there's one thing to improve on the institution, like what they would say. I feel like that's more constructive thing if you want to go like that path.
Yeah,
Right.
just sorry, Zach.
Go ahead, Sal, you go.
The just last thing I saw in the chat, there was a question. Since we are talking about interviewer, there was a question about thank you notes. I send thank you notes every time after. Try to send those thank you notes like the right after the interview, like maybe the night after the interview, because those interviewer, they write the your evaluation probably right after or the day after your interview. But I mean the goal for the thank you letter is not to just to like gain something from it. It just show that you're a nice person. So it's a really a nice thing to do, to thank the interviewer taking the time and interview you. So the structure I follow for the thank you notes is that I mention specific points about our discussion, our chat with the interviewer. I say that I really enjoy and thank them for the interview, and it's also a function as a way so that they you may stick in their mind better, because they interviewed probably 20 students a day. So the fact that you are nice and you take the time to thank them, it can help you just can help the interviewer remember you, which is at the end is just the goal of the interview. Just make the interviewer try to just have the interviewer remember you. So in a positive way, not in a negative way.
Cyrus, do you have anything to add?
This goes back to the questions that you can ask some of the schools. I think a couple others that come to mind for students who are interested in advocacy. I think it's asking interviewers the extent to which they value students' input into revising their curriculum or the current programs that they have to make constant improvements. And then another question that I also normally have in mind is finding out the extent to which there's collaboration across healthcare students in different programs. So thinking about nursing or physician assistant programs, because at the end of the day, the medical field is a teamwork based system where as a physician, you're also working with nurses, with PAs, with specialists in the field. So finding out the extent to which such a model is incorporated into the medical education.
All right, thank you, Cyrus. I think we finished all of these pre-submitted questions. So if any students have any questions that you want to ask, you can feel free to unmute and ask our panelists. I also want to respect everyone's time. I think we're like a few minutes, almost 4. So feel free, if you have anything, feel free to hop off. And if you want to stay, we're probably going to extend it for like 5 to 10 minutes just to respect all the panelists' time. So maybe like 3 to 4 live questions if that's possible. And if I have more questions, we're going to be sending out contact information and also all of our amazing mentors on F1 Doctors website. So feel free to like, shoot them an email on there if you have any more specific question that weren't answered. So does anyone have any questions that you want to unmute and ask? Or you can also type in the chat. We can monitor the chat as well.
Hi, so I have a quick question. So on the interview day, do you guys have any tips on like stress management or like handle anxiety during like your interview?
I'm not sure about, it's normal, it's human to be stressed for the interview. This is your dream, it's our dream, so it's normal. But just think that the interview, for me, was the funniest part of everything. I just had fun during interviews. I got to meet new students, I got to meet friends, which I still am in contact right now. So it was really amazing. And also keep in mind that, yes, you are observed during the interview, but it's also you that are evaluating the school. So it's kind of a reciprocal thing. They are examining you, but you are also testing the school to see if the school is a good fit for you. So just be yourself. If you made through the interview, you are a good candidate. They want you as you want them. Just have fun. Don't be crazy, which no one will, I'm sure. And it will be nice. It's normal to be stressful, but keep in mind that it's a fun part to be. The interviews are fun, are not like the MCAT.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question about the MMI. Since I seem to hear that your ability to think critically is tested, would you recommend thinking out loud when answering the question, such that the people can see the thinking process?
I can chime in to that. That's a good question. So when any question is posed to you, you want to give yourself maybe a good 10 to 15 seconds to just sit and then organize your thoughts before you start sharing them out loud. You can think out loud, but at least for me personally, I know thinking out loud, my words are not always very coherent. And your interviewer is listening to you and you don't want them to hear you just ramble on and not really give them any specific points. So take a few moments to just organize your thoughts and then give them the 2 or 3 points in favor or against the specific topic that you're addressing, and then why you're choosing a specific viewpoint as opposed to the other. Again, with these scenarios, you want to make sure that you're going in, you wouldn't necessarily know the specific prompts that would be given to you day of the interview, but go through a number of them that by the time you're interviewing, you have a good sense of some of the major viewpoints that you want to be discussing. And then it becomes more natural as you're trying to explain what you think would be the position that you take given that particular scenario.
Thank you.
Right. I think we have 2 questions in the chat. I think we're gonna just answer these 2 last questions. And then if you have any more questions, I guess feel free to email our mentors. The first question is, for students who have been waitlisted after the interview, what would you recommend they do, if anything?
I can take that one. So I think that's like pretty similar to my experience. So like I got a lot of waitlists from schools. What I did is that I kind of keep updating them until like the point that I was rejected. So basically, whenever you have something that's like kind of updatable, I would send them an email unless there's a limitation on how many you can send. I wouldn't send them like an email a day. Like that's a little bit too much. But I would say like, for example, when you have something like you submitted a paper, you attended a conference, or you start a new job, or any kind of like accomplishment, I think it's worth sending an update to. So I would kind of just keep expressing that interest. And also like, we know that the waitlist movement is around May. So I would send them, so for your top choice, I would send them an additional kind of, what's that called? Like letter of intent. So to kind of let them know that, hey, you are my top choice. If you really take me, I would like absolutely go. Because at that point in May, they're trying to fill up the space. So like they don't want to take somebody who's on the wait list but already like got into a better school and will not go. If you are like the person who's also very top on the wait list and they are trying to like figure out like if they take somebody, this person is absolutely going to go. If you're also very top on the list, they're probably going to take you. So I would say kind of the letter of intent in May and everything before that, just updates. That's really helpful.
I would say that don't feel discouraged for being on the waiting list, because I know for dental school, even when I already started, I received some emails saying, "Hey, are you still interested? We have a spot now." When I already had a spot in the school I wanted. So I would say don't feel discouraged, because when it's meant to be for you, it's meant to be for you.
All right, so the very last question that we have is following up on Sal's comment, how would you know if the school is a good fit for you? Are there specific characteristics that you are looking for?
I can talk about that. So I think basically I think you want to like figure out what like you really prioritize. Like I think there are definitely schools where they're very big on like community, and then there are schools that are really big on say like research, and then there might be schools where like they really emphasize things like dual degrees because they might have like really good like 1-year master programs and like whatever degree you're interested in. Like there are definitely schools that are more like I know a lot of times when you look on a website, a lot of them sound super similar, but if you dig a little deeper, or if you just like ask them on interview day or asked us like current students, like either at the social hour that they might host or just reach out to admissions, like they can tell you that there are definitely differences. Like for example, I can speak for like my school, and I'm sure like Wendy you can chime in, but like for example, we have I feel like we have a pretty big research thing because they actually like they have dedicated months to research in our future years, whereas some schools it might be like a summer thing or like kind of like, oh, you can do it before graduation, like whenever kind of thing. Our school also like really emphasizes say like clinical things because we started them really early. We'll also only have a 1-year preclinical, so we go into the clinic, like we go on our rotations like in second year, which is I think like as also at Harvard. So I don't know if I don't know if I misspoke, so Zach, you can correct me, but I think like a lot of schools differ on that. I know our school also emphasizes a lot on wellness. So like we have a pretty small cohort as well. Like we have less than 100 people in our class. So even with COVID, like you definitely, we work in small groups a lot. Like I can say that, and people are like very nice. Even if you're not super close to everyone because of COVID, like everyone is constantly saying like, oh, reach out to me if you need this and that. So I think there are still differences in these schools that maybe don't seem super important while you're interviewing because you just want to get into a school. But if you are in a position to like make a choice, I think it's very worth it to like talk to people because it'll be like, you know, a hard 4 years.
Yeah, I think I can chime into that on that as well. I think especially with characteristics, I don't know, it might just be a me thing, but I don't really kind of have a hard like characteristic I look for and then do a pros and cons list. I thought I was going to, but in the end, when they're choosing between two programs that I really want to go to, it's more of a gut feeling, which might be a little bit hard on virtual interviews, but just based on your interactions with the interviewers, with the students, and later on, if you get in doing like, you know, second look, which might also be online, but we never know. So doing those interactions, you will get a pretty good gut feeling. You will know, your body or your brain will tell you like, I like this more than the other one. You might do more of a cognitive like compensating, like, oh, I like this, but all the other programs are great too. But in the end, by the time that you are approaching your deadline, you know, like you know which one you want to go to, and that will likely, even though you delay it for months to make that decision, or by the end you will be able to tell which one is your favorite school. So with that being said, if anyone, Alexandra, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would like to, for even after you receive your acceptance letters and everything, I would really recommend sending thank you letters, not only after the interview, but also if one school accepts you, give you an acceptance and you end up choosing another school, I would still send a thank you letter for that school that accepted you. Because after you graduate dental or after you graduate med school, you want to specialize or go somewhere else. So you really want to keep your doors open and be in a good position with the other schools that gave you the opportunity to be with them, even though you chose another one.
Also, I want to add on specific factors when you're choosing a school. Keep in mind of like some other factors. For example, location. I went to Chicago during my interview season and was absolutely freezing, and I totally hate it. And that's like the trip reminded me how much I hate being cold, and I just don't want to be in like the north. So that's important because like imagine during your rotation, you're gonna be waking up like 4 a.m. in the morning, and even you're in Chicago, you're probably gonna wake up at 3:30 to like dig your car out of the snow, which is not fun.
I definitely agree on that. I am so affected by the weather. I absolutely hate the cold, so that is a huge factor.
Same here.
Yeah, we just got our first snow 2 days ago, so it's amazing. So on that note, we're going to wrap up. Thank you so much. So a round of applause for all of our amazing panelists for being here, dedicated 1 hour and more of their weekends. So we are going to keep doing this. We will do more panels in doing the interview process, but also as the news cycle is coming up, we're going to do more video series and like Zoom panels on all the topics about medical school and also even residency applications. So stay tuned for that. If you have any other questions, Wendy, Alexandra, Vicky, Cyrus, I think all of their information will be on our website. I'll make sure they're all updated so that you can contact them. And thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you all have a great the rest of the Sunday. Thank you.
And
so
Zach,
much.
Zach, if I can add, if they're not part of the Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, they can just go and like our page and group on Facebook. We have a Facebook, Instagram page, and a Twitter account.
Yeah, so I think a lot of them are F1 doctors, and just look up the name, and also probably will also be on our website. So if you can give us a follow and want to keep updated on events that we have, that would be great. All right, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you again for being all the panelists for being here. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye.
Thank you.